Day one of the NFL draft is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. And on today's episode, we got to talk about the winners and the losers of day one of the NFL draft. Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down right after this.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and if you're tuned in with me, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Man, day one was long as ever, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, ending a little bit after 12 Eastern. That's early Eastern. For the people that's on the East Coast, man, I wonder how y'all feeling this morning. I hope y'all had a good night's rest and a good cup of coffee, because for some reason, round one takes forever in the NFL draft. But let's talk about some of the winners to go ahead and kick this thing off on the right foot. The first winner for me in the NFL draft is the Atlanta Falcons. Going out there to improve your pass rush. You go out there and you first draft Jalen Walker, and then you go out there and you come back into the first round and get who I believe is one of the more underrated pass rushers in this draft, at least in the first round aspect, in James Pierce Jr. You talking about a Jalen Walker who is a guy who's going to be able to provide a lot of versatility for the Atlanta Falcons. This is a guy that lined up as a linebacker and an edge and has a lot of good tools that you can utilize for your defense if you're the Atlanta Falcons. Then you go in and you get a very productive SEC pass rusher in James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee to go ahead and bolster that, because you know that the offense is pretty stout for the Atlanta Falcons, but they had a lot of issues with rushing the passer. Now you go out there and you get two young, really, really good prospects for your team. Obviously, it's going to come down to see what they can do over there when it comes down to coaching these guys up and seeing how productive these two guys can be for your defense. But two really, really good prospects addressing a need that has been a need for the Atlanta Falcons for the past few seasons. So good job to the Atlanta Falcons on improving their defense. They taking the right step forward, at least in day one of the NFL draft. Another winner on my list is the New York Jets. Yes, the New York Jets absolutely did something correctly. There was some rumblings that the New York Jets might be interested in a tight end like Tyler Warren, but they instead went with an offensive lineman, and he's going to be able to come right in and play the right tackle where he is a natural fit and played throughout his collegiate career, in Ahmad Membou. And I think that is very, very good for the New York Jets. And now you add on to a line that looks like it is well prepared and well ready to push this thing forward for the new quarterback in Justin Fields. Talk about that offensive line. You got Ahmad Membou, you got Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, and Elijah Vera Tucker. Those are some really, really good offensive linemen for a new quarterback that's coming into your franchise like a Justin Fields. Y'all see the stuff that I'm rocking. Chicago Bears fans here, I know that the Chicago Bears did Justin Fields a disservice when they drafted him and did not properly adjust the offensive line. Now, there will be some questions about will he be able to have good anticipation throws and things like that, but one thing you cannot deny, Justin Fields is a playmaker when you allow him to play make. And just because, for the sake of discussion, there might be some times where he likes to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than most people would like. You give him a offensive line that is able to block for him and give him that extra second that he might need so he can go ahead and deliver. He's going to be able to have good deep ball accuracy down the field. He's going to be able to deliver in the middle of the field. And if he gets outside of the pocket, he's able to make plays with his legs, because he is that type of quarterback and very, very dynamic when you allow him to just simply be himself. So good job for the Jets with saying, hey, forget the shiny Ferrari. We're going to take the long-lasting Toyota And then that at least with that analogy comes with building the offensive line for now and years to come if Justin Fields does not work out for the New York Jets. My last winner, because I think there's a couple more teams that we could have placed in the winner slot, but my last winner for today's episode is the Eagles. It has to be the Eagles, right? I know they just won a championship, but to get the best linebacker in this draft in Jahad Campbell, that is a huge win. And he just fell into your lap. And you allow Kansas City to switch spots with you so they can take whoever they can take. And you just say, I bet, give me Jahad Campbell. He's very high on our list already. He's going to be paired and be right there next to Zach Bond, who had an outstanding season last season and helped the Eagles become a champion. Now it just seems like it's a little unfair for the Eagles because they just keep getting all the good players. But hey, that's what happens when you have a good regime and a good coaching staff, and these guys are absolutely doing their due diligence to make sure that they're continuously pushing and fighting for championships while they have this window and all this talent on the team with not many guys that they have to pay on that defensive side of the ball already. So kudos to the Eagles and shout out to them for being my last winner on this list. Now we're going to talk about some of the losers. It ain't a long list. It's not a long list. It's very short. It's straight to the point. My first loser of the draft, Pittsburgh Steelers. What the hell are you doing? Pittsburgh Steelers, what are we doing? Are you, for the life of me, I don't understand what the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely trying to do. Now, they can very well bounce back in the second round and go and get a quarterback that they feel like is going to be able to help push them to new heights. But to go out there and draft Derek Harmon out of Oregon, look, the player is not bad. It's just that the Steelers, what are you doing? I actually like Derek Harmon, and I think he's a monster. I think he was definitely one of those top three, top five defensive tackles in this current draft, and they got one. But the problem is why I'm making the Steelers a loser is because you're telling me that you are comfortable with running into this season with Mason Rudolph. What? You're telling me that you're just going to continue to sit on your hands and wait for Aaron Rodgers? What? And you're doing the same thing that you've done the last few years. You made a bevy of moves this offseason on the defensive side of the ball. And you also brought in DK Metcalf, and you still got George Pickens over there. You lost your running back. You need help on offense. You are completely lost if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. And I don't want to hear we haven't lost a season in X amount of years. It does not matter if you're not having losing seasons in the regular seasons, and every single time you enter round one of the playoffs and you get stumped, or you going home. So the Steelers are the absolute losers of this draft for me. I'm not saying that you had to absolutely go out there and take Shedeur, but damn, take a quarterback. Jackson Dart was right there for the taking too, if you liked him more than Shedeur Sanders. So the Pittsburgh Steelers absolutely are the number one losers of day one, because right now they could very well pivot into this, but you had an opportunity to either go after Shedeur or go and get Jackson Dart. And both of those quarterbacks fell to you, and you decided to stick to the steel curtain and take Derek Harmon when we know that this is not the early 2000s. This is not the 90s. This ain't the 80s. Defense, they are helping you win championships. But if you want to gather up and go and get some wins throughout the season and push further than the wild card round, then the divisional round, you need good quarterback play. And they just waiting on Aaron Rodgers. So big fat L for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The other loser that I got on my list is the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry just keep doing Jerry things. Now, I'm not necessarily mad that you went out there and you tried to fill a hole in your offensive line by replacing, a Hall of Famer in Zach Martin. It's not that bad of a decision to say, hey, Tyler Booker, come on. But the problem is that even when you had all that blocking, you don't have pass catchers or you don't have a running back to help the $60 million man, Dak Prescott. That's why you're losers in this. You had Omarion Hampton right there for the taking. If you didn't want to take him, fine, because you could have felt like, hey, there's a number of running backs that we can take in the second round. Cool. But you had what could be discussed as the next best wide receiver in this draft in Matthew Golden. You could have just had him. He was right there for you. You ain't had to trade up for him. You ain't had to trade back for him. You ain't had to give up no assets. You absolutely could have just went and got the guy to help your offense take another step and help CeeDee Lamb and help Dak Prescott. But no, I get it. Build up the trenches. Sometimes that's what you need to do. But if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you should have been trying to look for other pass catchers, and then you go and get what a lot of people believe is the best pass catcher in this draft outside of Ted McMillan. And some people that I've talked to, maybe not, but they believe Matthew Golden was a better prospect than Ted McMillan and has a little bit more versatility and things that he can add to a team than a Ted McMillan. But the Dallas Cowboys elected to go another way. That's why the Dallas Cowboys are getting a big fat L, because, Jerry, you're still oblivious to what is going on and what is transpiring around the league. You need pass catchers. Do you need an offensive line? Absolutely. Do you have an offensive line already? You already do. You already do. And I'm not saying that you didn't need to address the hole that was left by Zach Martin. Let's not get that misconstrued. But you need playmakers to help the quarterback, because the quarterback at best is a B quarterback. So he's going to need a bevy of weapons. And those weapons right now, Jerry, and Dallas Cowboy fans, even if you get mad, y'all don't have them, at least right now after day one of the NFL draft. So those are my winners. Those are my losers. You go ahead and you chime in and let me know who do you believe are some of the winners of day one or some of the losers of day one. I know it's not a huge sample size to go off of, but we will have more draft coverage coming later today as we move on to day two and rounds 2 and 3. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see what these teams potentially do. Maybe some of these losers could become winners, but they still got a lot of work to do, and they got to convince me because it's my list. Now you go ahead and you let me know how you feeling about the list. We got the winners: Falcons, Jets, Eagles. Could have mentioned a couple more, like the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a hell of a pickup for them to get Josh Simmons, by the way. But we talked about the losers: Steelers, Cowboys. I was this close to putting the Giants on there, but I would feel like it would have been a little petty. But it's not a loss. I can't be mad. It's not a loss. Did they reach for Jackson Dart? Absolutely. But you go get one of the best pass rushers, and then you go get your quarterback that you absolutely wanted. I can't be mad at that, but I will say, why would you draft Abdul Carter and then say we picking up Kayvon Thibodeau's 5th-year option? Huh? Tweaking. That's just me, though. But that is it for today's episode, man. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Make sure before you get up out of here, you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football, and you already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.